Thank you, Emily, for that introduction. I'm so happy to be talking to you all today about this really exciting virtual reality project and what we're doing here at Encompass. So, the first thing I'd like to give a little bit of history on Encompass Island and how it started out back in August of 2019. So, originally, myself and the other team members here at Encompass had moved out to Southern California to start an innovative educational company called College for All. And in College for All, we help people to earn college credit through examination. So it's a really neat, innovative way where students are able to make progress on their college degree for, not only a much more affordable rate, but also in a much more convenient way. And so we have been merging technology and education now for quite a few years. And one day when we were in Los Angeles, we had an opportunity to do a virtual reality experience. It was actually called Dreamscape. And while we were doing Dreamscape, we were really, really impressed. And on the drive home, we were saying to each other, I really feel like there's a lot of potential to bring VR even more into the educational field and really help to heighten our students' educational experiences through virtual reality. And we were really excited about that and really brainstormed through that entire concept for the next couple days. And one of the areas that we found that College for All was lacking, and not only College for All, but all online education, was really in terms of community building and connection and bringing students together. Because even though, I would argue distance education is even better than on-site education in many ways in terms of learning, you just simply can't deny that you do miss out on that community and that connection that you get from being with people in person. And so we wanted to find a way to lessen that disadvantage by bringing VR into the educational space. And from that desire is where Encompass Island was originally born. And from there, it's turned into something much larger and much more exciting. But to start off with, I'd like to focus a little bit more on the educational foundations of Encompass Island and how VR really will impact the future of education. So the first area that I would like to talk about really comes down to learning styles. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard that term before. You've heard of learning styles. There are at least four that are very commonly talked about. And, by some measurements, there are others. But as we know, some students learn through audio. They learn through listening. Some are more visual learners. Some are more hands-on learners, kinesthetic learners, and other learners are more analytical. And so what that means is that some students would rather listen to a lecture. Some students would rather watch, an educational presentation or experience in front of them. Others want to really get their hands dirty and really get into the material, whether it's engineering or science or art. They really want to be doing it. And then other students really like to take time reading and analyzing and internally processing information. And, in many ways, the College for All program did a really great job at offering, and still does do a great job at offering all of those different learning style accommodations. But virtual reality takes it to the next level. Through virtual reality, you can quite simply almost live inside of different experiences. So, taking a historical experience, for example, if you are in a history class, then you could actually have the experience of being part of the Boston Tea Party. Not only will you be able to hear and see everything happening around you, which will, of course, stimulate the visual learners, the audio learners. But on top of that, you'll even be able to join in, right? So you could actually pick up a crate of tea and throw it in the water. And so by bringing in all of these different styles together, students are going to have a much more well-rounded take on education, and they're going to walk away from these experiences feeling a lot more connected to the information and a lot more excited about it. And when they go back later on to continue on their textbooks or listening to lectures, they're going to have real tangible experiences to tie that information to, making it a lot more meaningful and a lot more interesting. So I'm really excited just about all the ways that Encompass Island can benefit not only College for All students in that way, but really all people that are interested in expanding their knowledge and learning more about the world around them in ways that are really meaningful and in ways that will stick with them in the long run. And the last area that is extremely important, especially to our students, comes down to community, right? Building friendships, maintaining friendships, and especially during the pandemic that we're all unfortunately still in. Being able to hang out with people that you care about or even make new friends, especially, is extremely difficult. And even though social media and FaceTime and messaging can bring us together more closely than in years past, the truth is that it still falls short. And even though, a virtual experience is never going to be as meaningful as in-person experiences, the amount of value that being able to see a person in front of you and hear their voice in front of you in a virtual environment adds is immense. And so that is one of the main keys that we originally saw as being for our students and enhancing their experience while they were in college doing it distance. But also, as the COVID-19 pandemic continued, we realized how really revolutionary this would be for everyone, for anyone that wants to download this app and not only better themselves through various educational opportunities, but also essentially have a virtual reality social media experience where you can build communities and engage with people from around the world in a safe way. So that's just a little background on VR and some of the ways that we are really excited to use it in our app Encompass Island. But moving on, I'd like to talk a little bit about the particulars of the island. So on the PowerPoint, you will see some concept art, some very early drafts from the first few days and weeks of us setting out to build this island. And one of the first things that we wanted to do was to make it seem realistic, right? So we wanted to have very, very diverse biomes, ecologies. We wanted to have very beautiful landscapes. We wanted to make everything actually function as it would if this were a real place. So on the slideshow now, you'll see a little size comparison here. And actually on the slide before, there was, let's see, on the bottom, the small one on the bottom right, you'll see various parts of the island in red. And that indicates the areas that we are currently focused on building out, because as you see on the size comparison slide, it is quite a large land area, right? So we're not going to be building it all out at once, but rather focusing on different unique locations to really offer that well-rounded experience of various architectural styles and biomes and wildlife and things like that. So as we moved on past the foundational stage of it, we decided to focus on a center hub area. And this would become not only the campus area for College for All students that joined the app, but also for anyone that joins, whether you are just someone that wants to do it for the social capabilities, the added educational opportunities, etc. So as you will see here, it's a beautiful sunny day. There are a few clouds in the sky, and this is actually based off of a weather forecast from San Diego. So one really awesome feature is that for every city and every region within the VR island that we have created, you actually can, or what we do is we set it to corresponding cities throughout the world and have the weather cycle through what that city's experiencing. And that also helps to keep it really real, because when you place this virtual island into a theoretical globe situation where it is positioned as if it were real, then you can match up the various points of the island to real world cities, and it really immerses you further. It makes you feel like you are in this amazing world that could be a reality. So moving forward here, you get some views of the early phases of what the world looks like. So there's a building with an avatar in front of it, and as we go on further, though, I'd like to talk a little bit about graphics, right? Because you'll notice that the sky looks very realistic and that the buildings, are pretty realistic, but maybe they're not. I mean, they're clearly not like real life yet. And so that's why I want to talk about the concept of high, medium, and low poly animation and how that does relate to VR, both now and especially in the future. So as most of you probably can imagine, a very high poly, very high graphic item, location, mountain, person, object, whatever it may be, requires a lot more space and a lot more computing power, whereas something on the medium or low end is a lot more doable from the onset. So from the beginning, we had some options. Do we want to launch a very tiny area that is in ultra high poly, realistic, HD, or do we want to launch a larger experience with much more opportunity, but perhaps under a more medium poly, which is actually better when you consider that most headsets are currently geared towards a medium poly anyway. So the truth is that even though right now you can tell that it's not real world, in the future, that is likely to change. So as we go on to the next slide here, you will see this is taken directly, a picture directly from Encompass Island. This is actually inside of a hot air balloon, and you can see the water looks pretty real, which is exciting. And if we go to the next slide, here, this is a view of one of the central plazas and the main area. This is probably the area that most everyone is going to start off in originally, which is really neat. It's like a beachfront city. And then here, this is pretty amazing. So this shows a picture of what the campus area will look very similar to in times to come. And really what it just depends on is two things. One, as the technology improves, and then also as the user base grows, we will be able to move more and more towards these high poly designs, where eventually when you get into this VR world and you put your headset on, there will be moments where you feel like you could really be walking around in the real world. So this is just a design of what of a general concept of what the campus will look like one day. And then if we move forward to the next slide, you'll see an example of what some of our walking trails will one day look like. We already do have these trails created, and these will be available to walk on when the app launches, but they will be in a lower poly to start with. But as time goes on, we'll be upgrading them in small chunks, basically, to look more like this. So that's kind of the update structure. We'll be picking individual experiences or smaller regions within the larger island to upgrade as the technology catches up, and also as the user base grows enough to sustain those advancements. And talking about advancements in the user base, one really interesting point to talk about, and we can go to the next slide here, does have to do with the growth of the VR market. So analysts have figured that in the next 5 years, there will be 28% year-on-year growth in the VR market. And what that means in financial or more understandable terms is this. So in 2019, the entire VR industry was worth an estimated $6.1 billion. And by 2025, that's expected to go all the way up to $21 billion. So that's a pretty huge jump just in 5 years. And that growth is seen to be exponential in the years ahead as well. And so as we continue to go through the slides here, we'll just see, you know, some other views of what the future of the Encompass Island is going to look like in times to come. This is a pretty cool image, especially because it draws. This is actually from Dubai. Some people may recognize this. In the south of the island, if you think back to one of those earlier slides, there's a big area highlighted in red, and it's called Jada City, and it's going to be a futuristic city where people are going to be able to come from all around the world, and hopefully one day not only get to have educational experiences and engage in community building and things of that nature, but go so far beyond that and even engage in commerce. People will be able to open their own digital shops where they can showcase their items, their different projects they're working on. Other people can support them. They can buy from them. In addition to that, interviews one day will ideally be able to be held through VR meetings, especially for jobs that are more computer-based in nature. And the city will be a masterpiece of Encompass Island, where we hope to really showcase the beautiful architecture that can be achieved in a virtual environment. So that's just a little bit of an explanation, not only to where it is right now, but where it is going in the future. I know one of the most exciting things about being with the company or following what they're doing or being a user of a great product is seeing where it's going in the future. So I know even for me personally, you know, whether it's companies like Apple or Tesla or things like that, I love not only what they have currently created, but also looking ahead to the future and seeing what is to come. And I think that's really exciting. And that's something that we are really committed to here at Encompass, is being committed to never really being satisfied, to always looking forward, to always making the user experience better, to always pushing the bounds of technology and really creating the future of virtual reality in education and beyond. So moving on to the last section here, I did want to talk a little bit about the details of how you can actually engage with this app. Right now, it may seem like a concept that's just way out in the future, but there actually is a way where you can experience this for yourself. So the final version of the app will be compatible with all the mainstream headsets on the market, such as the Oculus, the Vive, PlayStation VR, one day the Sony VR, and ideally when any other companies such as Apple release theirs, compatibility will be added for that also. And as far as updates go, such as the higher poly updates, those will be automatically installed. So just simply having the app is all that you will need to be along for that exciting journey. As far as the release date of this app, there are basically two release dates here to keep in mind. By early March, I would say probably March 1st is when you will be able to download the beta version. We can send out some more information on that, but early March will be a beta version that will be available on all Oculus headsets. So for people that have an Oculus headset and that are really excited to be a part of this app from the beginning, they will be able to do that starting on March 1st. For everyone else and for every other headset brand mentioned, the official launch will be in the spring of 2021. So the exact date on that is still to be decided, but it's looking to be probably middle spring. And that also brings me to the subject of how you can stay in the know and also follow the progress. And that would be primarily, there are a few ways, but primarily can be by following the College for All Instagram account, where we will be posting updates on the Encompass Island app. And then also, not only will you be getting updates from that, but there will be a little survey at the end of this where you will be able to express interest in getting emails sent directly to you, which will be another really great way to keep up to date with everything going on and where the app is in its timeline of being released. So with that being said, I think this would be a wonderful time for me to see if there are any questions that I could answer for any of you. And yes, I think that's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. So if anyone, like Andrew said, wanted to ask any questions that you had about the app or how it works, we'll be happy to answer those.
Okay, wonderful. I already have a question that just came in here. I'll be happy to answer that. So the question says, what educational experiences are expected to be part of your VR app? That's a great question. So within the VR app, the educational experiences are limitless. Some of the main ones that we're going to be focusing on from the onset are going to be historical experiences and nature, since it's something that is really really lacking in the modern world. I think a lot of people don't actually have the opportunity to learn about these things in a meaningful way where they're easy to retain, not only easy to retain, but fun to learn about. And so for that reason, we're going to be working really hard to release a variety of historical experiences that really help immerse people into those events and to meet various historical figures and interact with historical places. Example, so I'll give two examples of that. One example would be the French Revolution. Most people have heard about the French Revolution. Most people may have a general understanding of maybe a couple names of people that were involved or the timeline of it. But when we create an experience, we are actually going to allow for users to experience what it would be like to be in the middle of the French Revolution, in the middle of various aspects of it, where you see the people around you, you see the events unfolding before your eyes, you hear the shouts, you hear the music, you hear everything going on around you. And when you are done with that, you know, it won't be any longer the same feeling as reading a textbook where you feel like, oh, I got to remember these dates. I have to remember these words. I have to remember these sentences. It'll feel more like you just finished watching an amazing movie, but more so than that, a movie that you were a part of and you actually took part in. And so that is going to be really exciting and one of my personal favorites that we're going to be working on. Another one, just to throw it out there, would be like the Boston Tea Party, for example. A lot of people have heard about that, but maybe they don't know exactly what took place. So that'll also be a very interactable early experience where you will not only be able to observe the events taking place around you, but also engage in them. And that's really going to help, you know, with the retention of the knowledge and also with fostering a love for learning and love for history. So to answer your question, the amount of experiences are really quite endless that we're working on, but I would say look forward to historical experiences first and look forward to many more to come. And I'm going to get on to a few other questions here because I see quite a few coming in. Let's see. Okay, so I have a question that says, so if this app is available on Oculus on March 1st, Can we buy it, then use it, or do we need to be signed up with College for All for specific classes? That is an amazing question. So this app is actually totally free. You do not need to be signed up with College for All to use it. So when the app goes live, you will be able to download it completely for free. There will be certain features in certain regions that are reserved specifically for students, particularly the college campus areas. But even if you are not a student, you will be able to enjoy the world for free and many of its best offerings. So yes, thank you so much for that question. That was wonderful. I'll move on to the next one here. The next question says, how will AI, data computation, and algorithms work with your platform? So that is also a good question. It's also a very broad question. That would also probably be a better question for our development team. But I'll try to think of at least one interesting example of how AI will work within our system. One of the main ways AI will work within our system will actually be in safety. So just like it's important for people to feel safe if they're using Instagram or Facebook, or it's important for people to feel safe if they're walking around on a college campus, it's important for people to feel safe if they're in a virtual world too. Freedom of speech does exist, but people don't always choose to use that in the most appropriate ways. And sometimes people can feel threatened. And so with AI and data computation, things like that, that's one area that we're really focusing on to make sure that everyone's experience is seamless and enjoyable and safe. And we're using AI to really filter through the experiences that people, are having so that it's genuine but also safe. And that is a really exciting challenge because it's not something that's been done in this exact context before in virtual reality. And so that would just be one example of how we are using AI to better the experience of the users. So thank you for that question. Let's see. Okay, and next question says, hello from Maine. Oh, wonderful. I am a college professor of teacher education. Is this an app that would have some connection to teacher preparation? Just curious. Thank you. Well, thank you for your question. I really appreciate that. And yes, I think down the line, we really, we are very passionate about education in all forms. And so I definitely could see that being something that we move into in the future. We already are, especially for College for All students, looking into the concept of leading virtual classes and preparing some of our own teachers and our own tutors to be able to teach virtual classes. And I know that during the pandemic, a lot of schools have been looking into the possibility of what would virtual education look like in a more modern and ideal future, I would say. And so with that, yes, I do think in the future that will be something that we move on to. For now, there are no plans to be working on a teacher preparedness program, but I do think that is in the future, and that's a wonderful question. So thank you very much. Let's see. Another question. How long can a student spend in the VR? That is a wonderful question. So I don't know how many of you have done VR before, but if you have done VR, you may notice that certain experiences you feel like you could do for hours, and certain experiences you feel like you need to take your headset off after a few minutes. So it's really an interesting question. How long can a student stay in VR? I'm trying to think the best way to answer this question. In theory, you could stay in the VR for many hours on end and be perfectly fine. There's no data to suggest otherwise. However, it seems to be that about 30 minutes to an hour at a time, usually an hour at a time, is as long as people typically feel most comfortable in one sitting. And we have definitely discussed the possibility of maybe capping out daily usage, at least for our students, at 3-hour mark, or at least for certain experiences. And that would primarily be not only for time management reasons, but also because we think that there could be some negatives of spending, too many hours on end nonstop. But simply put, there is no set amount of time. Usually, an hour to 3 hours tends to be where that's cut off. But that's a good question. Um, let's see here. Got a comment saying, great, thank you, this is amazing. Oh, well, I'm glad you're enjoying it, and thank you for being here. Really appreciate that. Oh, wow, hello from Darwin, Australia. Will your app support business use? I work in multiple schools and charge for my services. Okay, great question. So you might remember when I was talking about Jada City, which is a city being built in the south of the island. So that city is actually primarily geared towards business and commerce more than even education. And so as we do make more progress on getting that city functioning, that is the time when we would really be looking to expand business offerings. So yes, I do see there being a time in the near future where business services are offered through Encompass Island, but that will not be something necessarily launching from the onset of the app in spring of 2021. But very great question, and thank you for joining us. Oh, this is a especially wonderful question as relates to education. Says if one plans on completing a class in VR, what kind of platform or layout is there for note taking and or test taking within the environment? Okay, thank you very much. So, two points here. One, all the educational content within the VR experience for now will be like additional supplementary education to whatever course you are currently in. So credit itself will not be earned within the app, but rather you will use the app to better understand the subject matter that you are studying, whether it's for an exam like a CLEP or DSST, or maybe you're taking a different course at a university online. Whatever you're doing, it'll be more additional supplementary education, whether it's just for personal interest or once again for a particular class. Now, as far as note taking goes and features like that, we do intend to roll out an option for students to take notes while they are in the experience. It'll be relatively simple, and when that does roll out, there will be a full tutorial on how that feature can be used. But for now, I would say since credit is not earned within the app itself, it'll be primarily used to supplement and increase the potency of the material you're learning more than actually be the catalyst for you to earn credit, if that makes sense. So thank you for your question. I really appreciate that. And I got a few more in here. See here. Okay, I was having tech issues, so I logged on right in the middle of your introduction. I'm interested in knowing how your Encompass Island came about. I understand that you might not be able to repeat that information. Can I find that information online? Yes, you will be able to find that information online. We are going to be placing this entire event on our website and on our YouTube channel. So you will be able to find this information. And just a quick update on that for anyone else that maybe wasn't around for that intro. So basically, myself and other College for All team members were living in Southern California. And at that time, we found out about a VR experience out of LA called Dreamscape. And we essentially went there and came away so inspired from the event and knew that it would really go well with what we were already doing with College for All, that we decided to really pursue the concept of merging them and bringing VR into the educational space, since no one was really doing that at the time, and still isn't doing exactly what we see as the highest potential for education in VR. So that's just a little brief history, but yes, feel free to watch to watch the intro all over again when it goes live on our website and YouTube channel. Okay, this is a follow-up question, I believe. It says, what is the overall layout of one completing a class in this environment? Great question. So for College for All students, classes are actually completed through the student portal, which is done on your computer, on your laptop, on your smartphone, and then credit is earned by going to a testing center and completing either CLEP or DSST exams. So, so essentially the actual education, the course education and the credit are earned outside of the VR world. Where the VR world, where Encompass Island comes into play, is really on two major fronts. Like I said, one would be the additional supplementary education that really heightens the experience of a student and can really make what they're learning a lot more real to them, stick with them a lot better, and also become a lot more interesting to them. And then two, it provides them that community that they are, lacking by doing an online program. So I hope that answers your question. Hi from Brisbane, Australia. Can we get more involved with your project, help create assets, beta test? I work at a university as a motion designer. Wow, okay, that is exciting. Well, thank you for that question and that comment. I really appreciate that, and I'm happy to know that there is interest. So I would say yes, we are always looking for people to contribute to this very exciting project. What I will do, I will have someone reach out to you directly after this, and with information on how you can be more involved. Okay, got another question here saying what to expect with educators possibly adapting this way of VR learning for future generations. Well, I'll say this. While the future is always very hard to predict, I do think that it's pretty clear this is the direction the education is moving in, primarily because there are experiences that you can have in a virtual environment that you just really can't have, at least affordably, anywhere else. So what I see even in more traditional settings, even in, on-site colleges and universities and even high schools and elementary schools, I see schools and teachers increasingly utilizing programs such as Encompass Island, not to replace the in-classroom teaching necessarily, but at least in the early stages to add to and to increase the potency of what they're already learning. So just a practical example would be if, let's say, a classroom is going over a certain period of history, let's say they're going over what's a interesting period of history. Maybe they're going over Egyptian history, let's say, right? That's very, very far back, very interesting to a lot of people, but also pretty hard for a lot of people to really picture beyond the pyramids. And so, if a classroom is spending a week, studying that subject matter, I could see a teacher bringing in VR to help immerse the students into what they're learning, into that content. And then I think that, in the distant future, it's hard to say how VR will be used, but I do think it's safe to say that it will be increasingly an important part of all education in the future. So thank you for your question. All right, well, I think that we have made it through all the questions thus far. Okay, I see one more that just came in here. Oh, wonderful. It says, hi, do you have any involvement with home educating families? Is there an age limit? Great question. Okay, this is wonderful. So here, let me just read it one more time to make sure. Yes. So we definitely do have involvement with home educating families, and this is a great option for everyone. And I think that to your other question about age limits, we are currently working on essentially a system where there are two categories for users. category for people that are under the age of 18 and a category for people that are over the age of 18. So essentially, there will be no strict age limits on who is allowed to use the app. But for security purposes, we are going to be essentially splitting up the two different sections of the user base. Now, at launch, we may be restricting it to people at a certain age limit, and that might be either 16 or 18. We'll have to wait and see for sure on that. But in the future, there will be some age caps and limits to make sure that everyone in the VR world is completely safe and with people around their same age and the same place in life. So that is a great question, and thank you. Okay, just one more just came in. Let's see. Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. All right. Well, I don't know if there anyone else that has any questions or not. If so, I'd be very happy to answer. But I think if not, I'll just thank you all so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to speak to you and also to answer your questions. And as you can tell, this is a really, really exciting project to me that I'm really passionate about, and I hope that you all will join us. Let's see here. Oh, one more question. What is your website, please? Okay, so our website is going to be the words college for all USA.com. And the for is going to be just FOR. So once again, that is college for all USA.com. And eventually we will be launching a totally separate website for Encompass Island. But for now, all of the content that you need can be found on our College for All website. So.
Awesome. Well, before everyone ends here, I just want to go ahead and launch our kind of end of the event poll, that if people can just go ahead and fill that out. And while that is being for everyone to fill that out, like Andrew said, I will go ahead and put our website just here on the chat in case anyone wants to go check that out, as well as Andrew's email if you want to reach out to him personally. So let me go ahead and just type that in if people just go ahead and fill that poll out there.
One more question just came in, and the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is just very simple. It's just College for All. And if you just type that in, it should be one of the first results that you see. So thank you for that question.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for filling that out and for those amazing questions. I really appreciate everyone being involved and coming to this event. We're so excited about so many people who are interested in VR and education. And we look forward to you being more involved and being able to download our app and experience it for yourself. So again, thank you to Andrew Schrader for being in this event as well. And we look forward to just continue to do more of these events and hopefully you be on those at a later date. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.